Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about finding the volume and surface area of triangular pyramids. So we've got a couple of examples that we're working through. We're going to be using the same formulas for volume and surface area that we used when we talked about square pyramids. Let's go ahead and just jump into a couple of examples. So again, we're going to need several things to find our surface area and volume. We're going to need our perimeter. One thing we're also going to need that we did not need for our square pyramids is we're going to need our apothem. That apothem is going to tell us what the area of our base is. And then we still need the height of our pyramid and the slant height of our pyramid. Remember, the height is from the center of the base up to the vertex of the pyramid, and the slant height is the height of one of the sides. So it's the height of one of the triangles that make up the side of our pyramid. Now, our perimeter, we're just going to add all three sides together. These three sides are the same. This is an equilateral triangle, so we just do 24 on the square root of 3 times 3. And that's going to give us a perimeter of 72 square root of 3. For our apothem, we have to look and see what kind of triangle we make over here. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this triangle that's right here off to the side so we can see it better. And if you remember from when we talked about prisms, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Well, that means if this side is x, this side would be x root 3. And this side would be 2x. And so here, we're told that this, x root 3, that's this piece right here. Since this is half of the side, this is 12 root 3, which means that my apothem would just be equal to 12. All I've got to do is peel the square root of 3 off to get the original number. Now for the area of the base, remember that formula is 1/2 of the perimeter times the apothem. So we're going to do 1/2 of 72 root 3 times my apothem of 12. When we put all that in the calculator, we get that the area of the base is 432 on the square root of 3. Let me move my height and slant height down a little bit. Now for my height and slant height, I'm going to go ahead and move this triangle off to the side. It's also a right triangle. We already said that our apothem was 12. And this time they gave us that the slant height was 20. So to find this side, we're going to revert back to the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so 12 squared plus some unknown squared is going to equal 20 squared. Well, that's going to give us 144 plus some unknown side squared equals 400. When we subtract the 144, we get that b squared equals 256. And the square root of that would give us 16. So that means that this side over here is 16. That would be our height, and the slant height would be 20. So all of this information over here was compiled just so that we can find the surface area and the volume. Remember, there's two parts of surface area. We first have the lateral surface area. That would be 1/2 of the perimeter times the slant height. So that would be 1/2 times 72 root 3 times my slant height of 20. We put all that in the calculator, and we get that our lateral area is 720 on the square root of 3. To get our total surface area, remember we're going to take our lateral area plus the area of our base. So that means I'm going to reuse this 720 root 3. I'm going to add the 432 root 3, which will give me a total surface area of 1,152 root 3. And now for our volume. We remember that is 1/3 area of the base times the height. So that would be 1/3 of 432 root 3 times my height of 16. And we put all that in the calculator, we get 2,304 on the square root of 3. And yes, I realize this is a whole lot of work for a very small amount of space, but the surface area and volume problems, they just take up a lot of work because of all the setup you have to do before you even begin your equations. So our surface area again was the 1,152 on the square root of 3. And our volume was 2,304 on the square root of 3. Now for this example, we're going to do the same things. We still need to find our perimeter, our apothem, the area of our base, our height, and our slant height. For our perimeter, we just have this 42 times 3, and so that's going to give us 126 on the square root of 3. For the apothem, well, if we think back to our previous one, we already know that this is 21 on the square root of 3 because it's half. And so if this is 21 square root of 3, and this is our 30, 60, 90, that means that this one is just going to be 21 because this is x and this is x on the square root of 3. So my apothem is just 21. The area of my base I get by doing 1/2 times my perimeter times my apothem. And when we do that, we get 1323 on the square root of 3. You can notice that our numbers are getting bigger fast. That's because we're doing a whole lot of multiplying and we're starting off with big numbers. The height was 28. And for the slant height, well, this one we're going to have to figure out. So we're going to need to make our right triangle. This is not a special right triangle, but it is still a right triangle. We know that this is 21 on the square root of 3, and we know that our height is 28. This is going to make finding the slant height a little bit easier than the last problem. So, we know that this is going to be 28 squared plus 21 square root of 3 squared, and that's going to give me my slant height squared. When I type that in the calculator, it gives me 1,225 as my slant height squared. And when I take the square root, I get that my slant height is 35. So I'm going to write that down over here. My slant height of 35. So now let's actually get to the meat of this. For my lateral surface area, we remember that that is 1/2 of the perimeter, 126√3, times the slant height of 35. And this, 126√3 times 35 divided by 2, will give me 2,205 on the square root of 3. For my total surface area, we're going to take the lateral surface area, 2205√3, and add the area of the base, 1/2 of 126√3, sorry, 1/2 of 1323√3, which will give us a total surface area of 3,528 on the square root of 3, which I'm going to go ahead and put over here, 3,528 on the square root of 3. And then lastly, for my volume, remember volume is 1/3 times the area of the base, 1323√3, times my height of 28. Since I'm running out of room, we're just going to write that answer directly up here. But when you multiply all of this, you get a very large number of 12,348 on the square root of 3. And so that is how you find the surface area and volume of triangular pyramids.